daily life and works. Descartes is famous for developments in geometry, physics, and philosophy. We will be principally concerned with his philosophy, especially as found in his Discourse on Method and Meditations on First Philosophy. Descartes was born on March 31st, 1596 in La Haye, France. His mother, Jeanne, died the year after his birth, since his father was a lawyer and magistrate. He and his siblings were raised by his grandparent, Smith too. Oh, okay, Smith too is like the reference they make. He subsequently was enrolled in the Jesuit college in La Haye at the age of 10, where he spent the next 8 years. In 1615 he entered the University of Poitiers, and after 1 year he earned a law degree. In 1618, at the age of 22, Descartes entered military service in the army of Prince Maurice of Nassau. Most scholars believe that his studies during this time were primarily engineering education related. Okay, I believe this is maybe important. Suffice it to say that during this time he came under the influence of mathematicians as Isaac Beckman and wrote a mathematical work on the theory of harmony. Okay, let's highlight this part as a faint light orange. Descartes left the army in 1619, and scholars are unsure of his whereabouts for the next several years. He later emerges in France, where he maintained contact with Worsen and intellectual in contact with the brightest minds of the time, such as Arnold, Hobbes, and Gassendi. He worked on a piece entitled The World, which he decided against publishing due to the condemnation of Galileo in 1633. Okay, so in 1635, Descartes has a daughter Francine by a domestic servant named Hélène. Descartes will later call her his niece, but eventually brought his family to live with him in Holland. He published his Discourse in 1637. Attached to the Discourse were works on optics and geometry. It is from this mathematical conception of a space that Isaac Newton will later develop his calculus and groundbreaking physics. Okay, now here's the important part for my class at least. Descartes' method. In Descartes' Discourse on Method, he presents some of the ideas in simpler form that he will later elaborate in more sophisticated terms in his Meditations. Descartes believes that previous philosophers had not been successful in resolving controversy, not for lack of intelligence or effort, but from lack of method. Okay, so this is the main topic. Not successful in resolving controversy. Basically, controversy, how to solve problems. But I'm gonna put in pink. In the Discourse, he provides such a method which he contributed to the project of establishing what? Oh my gosh. Sorry. That timer was for me to stop chilling. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be relaxing, but decided to Okay, let's go back again. In the Discourse, he provides such a method which he contributed to the project of establishing science on a solid foundation. His methods include the following steps. 1. Don't accept anything that is at all capable of being doubted. 2. Divide the problem up into as many pieces as possible. 3. Work from the simplest to the most complex. 4. Make frequent enumerations and surveys of your work to make sure you haven't made errors or left anything out. That makes sense. Accept anything that is all capable of being doubted. Divide the problem open. This is something like when you do an exercise, math exercise, but it can also be used to resolving controversy. Okay, methodological doubt. Descartes recognized that from his early education and life, he had accepted a number of prejudices. Let me put the timer. Okay, he had a lot of prejudice and preconceptions that are not rationally defensible. So one step of accepting and changing is just basically accepting. And he had accepted a number of prejudice and preconceptions that are not rational. In order to clear the ground in his search for a solid intellectual foundation, he employs a method of hyperbolic, exaggerated doubt. That's what I'm gonna highlight. Just take this off the wheel, because it used to be highlighted before. Okay, so he wants to change his idea. That's it. In order to clear the ground, I'm gonna highlight this part. Many critics challenge Descartes on the necessity of such extreme measures. Descartes, however, justifies his procedures in his replies. Suppose a person had a basket full of apples, and being warned that some of the apples were rotten, wanted to take out the rotten ones to prevent the rot spreading. How will he proceed? Would he not begin by tipping the whole load out of the basket? And would not the next step be to cast his eyes over each apple in turn, and pick up and put back in the basket only those he saw to be sound, leaving the others? In just the same way. Leaving the others. In just the same way, those who have never philosophized correctly have various opinions in their minds which they have begun to store up since childhood, and which they therefore have reason to believe may in many cases be false, which they therefore have reason to believe in. They then attempt to separate the false beliefs from the others, so as to prevent their contaminating the rest, and making the whole lot uncertain. Now, the best way they can accomplish this is to reject all their beliefs together in one go, and if they were all uncertain and false, they can then go over each belief in turn and readopt only those which they recognize to be true and indubitable. What the fuck? Indubitable. My gosh. Descartes notes that one false principle, such as the senses are reliable or authorities should be trusted, can infect all of our other principles. Are reliable. Oh, this reminds me to Plato's, the Sunderland and the cave. They made a reference, I think it was in the cave, where they were talking about the prisoners, which only believed the things that they could see, and see is part of the senses, so they could only trust their senses, and authorities should be trusted. Let me highlight this one. Can infect other principles? We know. To prevent this, it is the best to reject every doubtful principle. This method of universal doubt has other benefits when viewed in the context of the history of modern philosophy. Okay, let's get this one. The positivists of the Vienna Circle would apply the principle of verification to individual beliefs to test them for meaningfulness. They will conclude that statements that both lack a method of confirmation or disconfirmation are meaningless. Okay, if you can't confirm it, it's fake. But such a process was subject to a number of objections. One objection is that the method rules out meaningless statements that clearly are meaningless. example. God exists, humans are free, life has meaning, they are souls. Another objection to the verificationist program is the practical difficulty involved in throwing out beliefs at one at a time. Yeah, because how you know that? I mean, it makes sense for the apples, but for ideas. Descartes' hyperbolic doubt has the advantage of efficiently discarding everything doubtful quickly and seeing what remains. The verificationist method also suffered from the self-referential paradox that their test produced. Is the method of verification verifiable? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna look this up. Verifiable, verifiable,
Verifiable.
verifiable,
Verifiable.
verifiable, 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 verifiable. Is the method of verification verifiable? If not, conclusively confirmable or disconfirmable. Is it itself then meaningless? Another alternative to the principle of verification was offered by another Austrian, Karl Popper. Popper argued that what is essential is that a statement be falsifiable. Worthwhile scientific theories for Popper take some risks. That is, they make statements that could be refuted. Popper mentions Einstein's theory as an example of valuable science. Einstein's theory made definite claims that experiments later confirmed. Okay, definite claims. In contrast, Popper argued that the theories such as Freudian psychoanalysis and Marx's theory of dialectic materialism are essentially non-falsifiable theories. There is no evidence that would count as counter-instance or refutations of their theory. So there is no evidence that can falsify. Popper's falsifiability, however, suffered from its own problem. Take the sense that all swans are white. In order to falsify this universal proposition, one must show that the following claim is true. Some swans are not white. That is, one must find a single instance of a swan that is not white. Such swans were discovered, in fact, in Australia. That, notwithstanding, if we try to falsify the statement some swans are not white, we must prove that all swans are white. We must prove that all swans are white is true. That is, we must survey and prove something about the class of swans, a task which is in principle possible, but in practice impossible. Given the potential problems with verificationism and falsifiability, Descartes' hyperbolic methodological doubt is an attractive alternative. Okay, let me put highlighted Poppers. And verification. And positivities. This is a weird thing. We had three people here named after this part. Okay, so let's review again. So hyperbolic is more exaggerated because we take the doubts all at once and then we just check one by one once they're out of the basket, which one seems reliable. We look first for the truth. Okay, so then we have the positivists. Okay, let's see what was it because I didn't highlight this. They will conclude that statements that both lack method and confirmation or disconfirmation are meaningless. Things that you cannot confirm and things that you cannot show that they are false. More like paradoxes. They think that paradoxes are meaningless. Yeah, and there are some times in which we cannot say, just because we can confirm or disconfirm, doesn't mean that it's meaningless. Paradox have an use to help us understand cases where things are a little bit complicated. We have the verifications, the particles from monitoring our beliefs one at a time. And the verification is one where you have to check them one at a time. The difference with Descartes' point is that he throws everything out, and then once it's out, he goes check them by one. But the verification is they don't take it out. They just check the apples while they're in the basket, and that may get things mixed up. It's not too helpful. So they have this here saying that discarding everything doubtful quickly and seeing what remains is something that you can do with Descartes, but not with the verificationist. And then we have Popper's falsifiability, which it needs some evidence to show if it's gonna be refutable or not. You need to be able to refute the statement for it to be true, I guess. Okay, last part. The senses. Having made the case for this methodological doubt, we will now step through his arguments. Okay, so Descartes was a foundationalist. He's looking for a secure intellectual foundation to build his knowledge on. For he wants to make sure that what he's learning makes sense and is true, as he knows the most widely available source of knowledge is our senses. These senses, however, have deceived us in the past, so it is reasonable to doubt them. His arguments can be given with 3 premises labeled below. Most of my beliefs are based on the senses. The senses have deceived me in the past. It is reasonable to doubt something that has deceived me. Thus, most of my beliefs are open to reasonable doubt. So, oh my gosh, it's a little bit complicated for him to trust on anything then. And that was all of reading. So I have highlighted what I think is important, put in high notes, just so when I come back here, because I think the teacher is gonna make us have a quiz for this one, and yeah, I don't think he's gonna ask us his date of birth or where he went to study, but maybe he will ask for the titles. For example, this one in the first part, mathematical work on the theory of harmony. Well, maybe that one now because we're in psychology. But I think it was important either way. Oh, this one, the Descartes in 1637, attached to the Descartes where works on optics and geometry. And let's see, of course, the method on how he thought to solve controversy is gonna be there, for sure. Especially because it's something so short that they put there, and they give you the points separated, so it's important. What else? Yeah, we definitely need to have at least some idea of what's the difference between the hyperbolic, exaggerated doubt of Descartes, the positivists, their idea, the verificationist, and the falsifiability. I still need to review the falsifiability one because for what I understand is that to get we just need to check if we can falsify the idea, if there's a way to prove that it is not true, and it needs to be a feasible way, something that is practical and a little bit comfortable to prove, to experiment. For example, gravity. Can we show gravity in an easy way? I mean, I was thinking of the apple falling since we talk about Newton, but who knows? Either way, that was all for me right now. See ya.